the remaining time of our shir, I'd like to study today the golden calf. Hold on one second. So what I'd like to discuss today is the sin of the Ego Azav, the sin of the golden calf. And there's a huge difference between the way Rashi reads this and the way the text appears. I think it's very important that we read the way Rashi reads it because it represents the traditional rabbinic approach. Because from the text itself, we can have one view of the Jewish people, but from Rashi is the great defender of the Jewish people. And Rashi protects us and helps us against those who want to persecute us. So let's look at chapter 32 and we'll see how far we're able to do it. We'll see how what the text says and what Rashi says. So first we'll read the text. Chapter 32, verse 1. Vayara the people were Moshe's up there on God. Moshe's up there in heaven, in the mountain, speaking directly to God, having the greatest spiritual experience in the history of humanity. Speaking directly to God and getting the Torah. He's having the greatest experience. Hard to imagine it being possibly any better than what Moshe was experiencing. But at that moment, things were not going so great back home because the people were without their leader and they were rudderless and nervous and scared. And so that's what the text says. The people saw that Moshe was delayed coming down from the mountain. And they didn't like where Moshe was. And they gathered on Aaron and they said to him, Kum aseh lanu Elohim, make for us a god or gods. Asher yalchu lefanenu. It's in the plural, so gods who will go before us. Kizeh Moshe ish asher alanu me'eretz Mitzrayim lo yadanu mahayolel. We don't know what happened to Moshe. He's disappeared. Moshe's gone. The last time we saw him, there was fiery scenes, the fireworks coming out of the sky, and we fainted, like we couldn't handle it, and Moshe went up the mountain. In fact, one of the ways which we identify what's Mount Sinai is by looking for a old volcano. So if you could imagine the scene that Moshe walked into the volcano. He walked into the fire of the volcano. So if he walks into the fire of the volcano, they don't know that he's alive. They don't know that at all. So they were scared. And they thought that he led them out to this place. And who knows what's going to happen. So they said to Aaron, maybe it's all over. I mean, if you read the literal text, they're like, okay, we tried that approach. It didn't work. We kept dying from it. Give us something. That seems to be the literal approach. Vayomer aleim Aaron. And Aaron said, Parku nizmei azahav, asher ba'aznei nishechem. Take your earrings, your gold earrings, or take your gold rings that are in the ears of your wives, your sons and your daughters, bring the rings from your sons and your daughters, bring them to me. Here too, if we adopt the literal text, it sounds like the people said we need a God, and Aaron was complicit, that he says, we're going to help you get your gods. We're going to give you these rings. Give me the gold. And the people removed all the rings that were in their ears by Avilo Aaron. And they brought it to Aaron right away. And he took it from their hands. Vayatzar oto bacheret. and he put it in a cheret, most likely can mean, Rashi here translates it as a scarf, but usually it means like a mold, that he knew what he was doing. He made this molten calf, which is the direct prohibition of what we just read about in the Ten Commandments. Vayomru Eile Elohecha Yisrael. And this is, he said, or they said, so not Aaron, but they said, who's they? It sounds like it's the children of Israel. These are your gods, Israel, Asher Aluchem Eretz Mitzrayim, who led you up out of Egypt. Vayar Aaron, and Aaron sees this, Vayivem Mizbeach Lefanav. And Aaron built an altar. Rather than Aaron being upset, he builds the altar for this golden calf. Vayikra Aaron, and Aaron called out and he said, Chag LaHashem Machar. Tomorrow will be a special festival to Hashem. Vayashkimu mimacharat. They woke early the next morning. Vayalu olot. They brought up olah offerings. Vayagishu shlamim. And they brought shlamim offerings, other types of sacrifices. Vayeshev ha'am. And the people sat down lechol v'shato, to eat and to drink. Vayachkumu l'tzachek. And they got up to celebrate. This is the literal text of the golden calf. It's just 6 verses of the whole scene of the golden calf. And if you read these 6 verses, it seems indefensible. Moshe goes up. They say, we need to replace Moshe with this golden calf. They eat and they drink and they worship the golden calf. And not only that, the people's actions seem indefensible. And also Aaron's actions seem indefensible. Aaron builds the altar. Aaron throws the gold. Aaron asks for the gold. He throws the gold into a molten image, into a mold. He says, this is your altar to the Jewish people. This is your God. It seems indefensible. But Rashi loves the Jewish people so much that Rashi uses the Talmudic text and the Midrashim and builds a defense not only of the Jewish people but also of Aaron. According to Rashi, the Jewish people were tricked. He defends them. According to Rashi, Aaron's intentions were good, and the Jewish people's intentions were good. And he blames the sin. He blames the sin on other factors. So, let's see what happens. Vayara what does Rashi say? First, defense of the people. Ki boshesh Moshe laredes min hahar. Moshe was delayed. Rashi says, it wasn't that just Moshe was delayed, but rather, it wasn't the people's fault. Moshe had confused them. That the word boshesh means late. So when Moshe went up the mountain, he told them, after 40 days, I'm going to come. And he said, Bishesh. Moshe, basically, in this first 6 hours, Bishesh, they thought Moshe was going to come in the first 6 hours of the day after 40 days. So that's what they thought, but they miscounted because they thought the day he went up the mountain was actually day number 1. But Moshe meant starting to count from complete days. So they counted a day before Moshe. So when Moshe didn't appear on after 40 days in the morning, they thought that this man must be dead. So that was the mistake. It was just a mistake in communication, a mistake in counting. But you can imagine how the people went, especially like just even imagine the internet today, how insane it would get if Moshe says, I'm coming back on 40 days in the morning and he's not there. Can you imagine all the theories going out there, and everybody, in 2 seconds, would go viral that this is a disaster. And that's what happened. News could spread fast even before the internet. And that's what he says. He said to them, he meant 40 full days. The day he went up, that night he had been there because he went up on the 7th of Sivan. So the 40th day was on the 17th of Tammuz. But on the 16th day, what happened? Vishisha Asar, what happened? Terrible thing happened. But again, Rashi's writing this for a reason. Rashi's like when the teacher would call home to to say something about somebody's kid, and the mother gets on the phone and tells the teacher, no, it's not my kid. You're the one who's wrong. That's what Rashi's saying. Rashi's saying, what happened? On the 16th day, Satan came. Satan came and confused the world. He showed an image of darkness, gloom, and confusion. To say, Vadai mate Moshe. To say for sure Moshe died. This is something that's everybody's very concerned about now. We have AI, we can make these fake videos, fake images, fake pictures. But the rabbinic imagination imagined this well before AI. They imagined the danger through propaganda of fake images, of fake news. And that's exactly what happened here. That Rashi is saying the Jewish people had no choice, had no chance. First of all, Moshe was late. And then on top of that, they're seeing these images from Satan of a dead Moses. Now, it doesn't have to be literally Satan to imagine it. You can imagine that there were evil forces in the world that wanted to see the Jewish people fail. And they put out these fake images of Moshe's death. Newspapers saying Moshe died. You can imagine just how devastating it would be and how the people would seek solace elsewhere. He said to them, Moshe died. For 6 hours have passed, and he has not come. So that's what Rashi was saying. And all of this is based upon the tractate Shabbos. When it says Boshesh, it means Ba'ushesh, the 6 hours have come. Now, Rashi's saying it can't mean that they thought 6 hours had passed, but it was just a cloudy day, and it was really in the morning, because Rashi says Moshe didn't come down the next day, and Moshe came down on the 17th of Tammuz. But early the next day, on the 17th of Tammuz, they woke up and they made the golden calf. So therefore, it must be that they sinned on the 16th day. All of a sudden, we see that their sin was not a rejection of God. They weren't rejecting God. Their sin, according to this approach, came out of fear, came out of from a deep sense of abandonment, but it was as a result of this fake news. They didn't realize what was going on. I mean, if you would go before if you would go before a judge and say, this person was moved to act because somebody showed him this image and he didn't realize it was fake, the judge would look very leniently upon such a person who acted that way on the basis of this this manipulation. And that's exactly what the rabbis attributed to. It's exactly what the rabbis attributed to. Extenuating circumstances. And then it says, for this man Moshe, who led us out of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. Here too, Rashi tells us, Satan showed them an image of Moses. Some say it was Moses in his coffin, that they were carrying him up in the space of the heavens. There's our late friend of blessed memory, Bradley Fields, got me very very interested in Houdini. Bradley Fields of blessed memory. He was a very big fan of Houdini. And if you read a lot about Houdini, you see just the personal crusade Houdini went on to expose the people who thought that they could bring the dead back to life and through seances. And Houdini became hated because he exposed these people. I think we're talking about, right, a little bit more than like 75 or 85 years ago, maybe 95 years ago. I know exactly Houdini's dates. That means the whole world was entrenched, and some of the smartest people in the world, some of the most famous authors, they all believed in these seances, which were just basically cheap magic tricks, just really, really cheap magic tricks. And I think that's what these midrashim are telling us, that the Jewish people were tricked. And if you can, and it's probably a lot easier to trick a large group of people than an individual. Because if you're just tricking an individual, that individual could hold out. You could say, show me more evidence. But when the whole group is being tricked, there's just a momentum, which is not there with an individual. And so that's, anyway, that's the first thing. That Rashi's defense of them is based upon the fact that they were tricked. They were tricked by Satan, or they were tricked by forces out there in the world, and it was also coupled with mistaken communication. Now, what were they asking for? All they were asking for, this is the third defense that Rashi gives. The third defense that Rashi gives is that all they were asking for was a tour guide. They weren't asking, it says, bring for us, Moshe, let us up from Egypt. Rashi says, Moshe showed us the way to go up. And now we need gods who will go before us. Meaning to say, now we need, the word Elohim in the Bible can mean God, but it can also mean a judge or a position of authority. So they weren't asking for a God, they were asking for somebody to be their guide, not their God, their guide in the desert. They were desperate, in need of a guide. So that's the third defense. Again, the first defense is total miscommunication between Moshe and the Jewish people. The second defense is that they were tricked by Satan or by dark magic. And now we get to the third defense, which is they weren't asking for a false God. They were just asking for somebody to take Moshe's role in guiding them. And they went to Aaron in good faith and said, we need a new guide to lead us. We need a leader. Is that a sin to ask for a leader? Surely not. So according to this approach, the Jewish people did nothing wrong. So you might say, well then, where did all this golden calf come from? It came from Aaron. So Aaron must have done something terrible. Aaron is the one who led them down the wrong path. So Aaron is the one who deserves to be punished. And in fact, it does also from the literal text of the Torah, it does seem like Aaron did something wrong, because we know that he's constantly trying to atone for this sin. Moshe rebukes him initially. And also Aaron's sons die soon after this. But Rashi does not have any of that either. Rashi defends Aaron as well. And Rashi says that everything Aaron did was because he was trying to slow down the situation and delay the situation in order to stall until Moshe could return. Meaning Aaron was taken over by the sheer momentum of events that he himself couldn't stop. But he was just trying to slow down the situation. And this is what Rashi says. It says, according to the text, why does Aaron ask for gold? Because he wants to build a golden calf. But Rashi says, no. Amar Aaron Belibo, Aaron said to himself, there's no way they're going to give me their money. The women and the children are very protective of their jewelry. Maybe if I ask them for money, it's going to take a long time. We start a capital campaign, a fundraising campaign. It'll take a long time to get there. It will take months, if not years. Don't worry about it. That's the best thing to do. Let's start a fundraising team. He didn't realize that everybody went. Everybody went. The men and the women did not wait because they heard marching orders from Aaron. You think they're going to wait? So all of this was happening with good intention. So that's the first defense. But that's not enough, because at the end of the day, Aaron takes it and he throws it into this fire and turns it into a calf. So that seems completely indefensible. Even if he was trying to delay it, how did it become a golden calf? So here too we have Rashi's defense of Aaron. Here too we have Rashi's defense of Aaron. What does he say? Once he threw the fire into the kiln, into the furnace, he says, no. It didn't come from Aaron. There was black magic there. And we blame it on the mixed multitude who snuck out with them from Egypt, that they are the ones who did it. Means say Aaron had no interest. This was done by some riffraff who had attached to themselves. Like when I was in Ukraine a few years ago. Hold on one second, Jeffrey. I see you. We'll just wait a minute. When I was in Ukraine a few years ago, we saw swastikas everywhere. It was pretty prevalent. And everywhere we went, they blamed, oh, these are KGB agents who are doing this. So as Rashi was saying, all this was being done by the Erev Rav. It wasn't the Jewish people. It was these people who were infiltrated, double agents. And other approach of Rashi was that there was a special wicked man named Micah, and he did the magic itself. Well, if that's the case, how come he says, this is your God? Why does Aaron say, this is your God? Rashi says here too, he says, this is your God, but he didn't say this is our God. Rashi imagined Aaron pointing to the bad actors there and saying, this is your God, but this is not our God. Tomorrow, we're going to make a festival to the real God, to Hashem. And that's what Rashi is saying. So basically, Rashi has a few defenses of Aaron. He defends the Jewish people. His defenses of Aaron are, first of all, there was this incredible force. He couldn't stop. He tried to delay it. And then, while he was trying to delay it, these bad actors amongst the Jewish people took the matter into their own hands and made the false gods. But even then, Aaron was saying, this is you, but it's not us. And he was doing the best he can in a terrible circumstance. And that's Rashi's defense of both Aaron and the Jewish people. We're going to take the questions here.